Hello and welcome to Creative Walks episode 34. And today is Sunday, and it's usually the day that I take it somewhat easy and do a few work projects, but the main thing I try to do every week is a weekly review of simply all my projects, all the things that are on my mind, all the new things coming up, all the deadlines, and it's part of the GTD methodology, the Getting Things Done methodology by David Allen, which I illustrated a part of in one of the previous episodes. And I think this week I'll be able to record a new one explaining the second step of that. But to take you a little bit further on the methodology, and something that I'm trying to do every week, is a key component of his way of taking the chaos and turning into actionable steps, which is to do a weekly review of all your projects. The idea when you get into it is that you have a list of simply all your projects, hopefully with next steps related to them. So you have your project, which is what you're trying to accomplish. You can be buy a company or buy nails, and the physical next step related to that. And the interesting thing is that he organizes his projects as they are either actionable, meaning you have to do them as soon as possible, or inside a specific calendar if it is calendar actions, things that are going to happen in a specific day, or they are a someday maybe project, meaning you'll get to them eventually, but they are not actionable right away. And one of the main problems I had while implementing this methodology is actually do consistently this weekly review where you see all of them, including the things that are for later. For example, I am thinking of places that me and my wife are gonna travel to in February, so that's on my active to-do list, which is to see, okay, where can we budget to go and where would be interesting to go and all that. So that's there. And at the same time, I have a list of places I want to visit that are not for right now. But the problem is that if you don't look at least weekly, consistently, to that list of things that you might eventually want to go, it brings a little bit of anxiety that you are maybe not working exactly on what you should be working on. And of course, when you talk about travels, it's certainly not a priority for most people, but it can be any kind of project, things that you put off or that you think, oh, maybe later, I don't know what to do about this, or maybe later. And the interesting thing about coming back to projects is that you sometimes are smarter than you were 2 weeks ago, or a month ago, or 3 months ago, when you came up with the idea. And the cool thing that happens is that whenever you look at a project again, you can find new things that you can do to move that forward. And sometimes we think of projects as, okay, if I want to do, let's say, a new photograph about this, I need to do, let's say, a specific technique, or I have to get a specific place, or I have to do a specific thing. Fine. But sometimes you actually don't know what the next step is. So, especially in artworks or in entrepreneurial projects, sometimes you will have an idea and you will not know the next step. And we don't really think about this, but having a project that is figure out what to do about that thing is an actual actionable project. That means, for example, just to give you an example of my own current projects, I want to do a photograph inspired by the Tripilia culture, which is this ancient, far gone culture, civilization that lived here in Ukraine and in Romania and I believe in Bulgaria. And they lived for thousands of years and now they don't, but they have this beautiful artworks that are these little statuettes and specific ways that they create these beautiful geometric patterns. And I wanted to create a photograph inspired by that. And that was, okay, on my to-do list and my projects for someday maybe. And I knew that I didn't know what was the next step on that. And then today I was looking into my projects, and then I said, that's actually something I would like to get into, try to do sooner rather than later, for whatever reason, which I don't know yet. But then I thought, okay, I'm not sure what the next step is on this project. And then I thought, okay, so that's what's going to go on my list for the week. Figure out what to do about this project. And of course, you start immediately when you ask yourself, what should I do about this? Your brain, your soul sort of knows what you have to do if you let yourself listen to what your mind is going to say. So just to give you an idea in real time, as I thought of this project, was, okay, first, a little bit of guilt. It's been on my mind for like 6 months now. Then, I actually thought it would be interesting to do something related to body paint and going to specific areas that where this culture happened. Then it's like, I actually don't know that much aside from a few readings, a few lectures, and I don't know, Wikipedia entries about the culture. So why should, what's bugging me is that I don't know enough to actually come up with a meaningful photograph. So my next step might be to go and research about this culture, about the Tripilia culture. So that could manifest itself in many ways. One of them would be to go and read about it, or go to the museum and take a look at things, or even better, at least the way that I learn and I like to engage, is find a person that knows about the Tripilia culture and interview them for your podcast. I have the podcast, my other podcast, which is the Wanderings podcast. And then I thought, that would be interesting, and it would be of value to the researcher to be featured in the podcast that has its audience. And for me, it would be interesting to actually talk to someone that is deep into that culture, into the study of it. So it's one of those things that if I hadn't put the actual process project, meaning trying to figure out what your next step is, I would not come up with the idea, which now seems obvious, find a researcher to talk to, for example. So I think this, independently of the GTD methodology, I think it's a very interesting insight that I wanted to share with you, which is try to find process projects. Try to figure out what you don't know or what's stopping you from getting into a specific project, and make that in itself into a project. And I think that will help move things along that have been there in your mind for a few months. And I think the other thing related to that is take a look at your to-do list, or if you don't have one, write down on paper, take your Sunday, get your tea or wine or whatever you want to wind down, and actually just write down whatever comes to mind of these creative projects that you've been thinking about, and maybe you forgot about them. So take a look at them, see what comes to mind, and literally ask yourself. I cannot emphasize this enough. It's an amazing, powerful tool I've been trying to explore. That is, instead of trying to think about a thing, you ask yourself, what about this? It's in a way a form of prayer. You ask for an answer, and it comes independently of what you believe in terms of high spirits or muses and all those things. But independent of how that works, your mind will bring you some ideas, and it will also help you hone in your intuitions. And most of all, try to be honest with yourself where you are at different projects, and that will help unlock them. So with that, I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Let me know what you're thinking of the podcast. I'd love to hear from you. I heard from a few people, but some people are shy, and it really helps me to know if these things are of interest to you, if you'd like me to expand on a specific subject. So just shoot me a message on social media or on the contact form on my website. So if you search for Pedro Bonatto anywhere, you'll find me. So with that, I will see you tomorrow, and I hope you have a fantastic week.